And now, live from Denver, Colorado, this is Before the Chop, the morning show for barbers. Here's your host, David Ford.
I'm going to start today with a sentence that should bother you way more than it does. Are you ready for it? All right, here we go. You can be having the best year of your career, the best year, and be in real trouble at the exact same time, and every single number you track will tell you you're fine right up until you aren't. Good morning, barbers. Good morning to the Monday openers and the Saturday night closers, the one-chair owner-operators, the folks renting a booth while they build something bigger than the booth, and everybody catching this on the replay with the clippers still in hand. You found the one show on the internet that treats this chair like the business that it actually is, and today the business we're minding is you. I'm David Ford, and I'm going to keep the fake job titles in the drawer this morning because this one isn't a spreadsheet episode. It hits closer to home than that. Here's the idea I want you holding throughout every syllable that leaves my mouth today. You can be fully booked and still be burning out. Nobody's checking your calendar for it. Your deposits won't flag it. Every gauge you actually watch is going to keep smiling at you and saying that you're crushing it because the gauge everybody watches is not the gauge that fails. We've brushed against this before on the show, by the way. You might remember the 9 Hats episode where I told you that burnout rarely comes from the craft. It comes from the invisible jobs stacked on top of it. It's poked through the edges of other mornings here too, but every time it came up, it got a minute and a half and we moved on. Today it gets the entire show because self-care and work-life balance are not the soft side of this trade. They're what keep you behind the chair on the long haul, long enough to enjoy everything else that we build here. This is my promise to you today. By the end of this morning, you'll have a way to check the gauge that does fail, the one with no number on it, in your own week in about 30 seconds before it costs you something you can't book your way back. We'll do the Mindset Minute first, as always. Then I'm going to explain this whole thing through one tool you already own, the pair of clippers in your hand, every single day, because they fail the exact same way a burned out barber does. And once you see it in the tool, you will not be able to unsee it in yourself. Anything comes up today, the chat's open all show, and so is mailitbeforethechop.com. One idea this morning. Here it is. Your book and your tank are not the same gauge. From week 1 in this trade, we're trained to watch a single number. Is the book full? Are the chairs turning? Did retail move? That number pays your rent, so keep watching it. But it's one gauge on a dashboard that has 2 gauges, and the second one doesn't come with a number printed on it, which is a problem. And it's the reason nobody looks at it. The second gauge is the tank. It shows up pinned on E, flat where you used to be sharp, short where you used to be patient, half present in a conversation you used to love having while the rest of you sits at home on your couch 3 miles away. Your book measures how much the world wants you. Your tank measures how much of you is available to give to the world. 2 different readings. Only one of them actually shows up in an app, but it cuts the other way too. The better the book looks, the easier the tank is to ignore, because when the numbers are good, every voice around you says, keep the machine running. Look at it. It's working. Nobody throws a parade for the barber who protected a Tuesday, so the fuller you get, the more cover the empty tank has to hide behind. An empty tank doesn't just sit there being empty either. It makes you look worse at the exact job the full book is demanding more of. Tired you cuts a little slower, listens a little less, laughs a beat late. The clients don't leave over it at first. They just get a slightly smaller version of you and never know that there was a bigger one on offer. Nobody ever sends you a bill for that, but you're paying it every single day. You keep charging full price for a you that's running at 70%. Ready for this? Here's today's mantra. full book, empty tank. You can pin the first gauge while the second one drains to nothing, and no deposit, no rebook rate, no 5-star review will ever warn you because those numbers were only ever measuring the book. Now, how do you read a gauge with no number on it? Ask yourself these questions. When a client loves the cut, do you feel anything? When your favorite regular books in, do you look forward to it or do you brace for it? When you picture doing this job 5 years from now, does your chest open up or does it tighten? No spreadsheet required. 30 seconds on the drive home, once a week, the same way you would glance at the fuel gauge in your car. Check the second gauge this week. Not the one everybody else can see, the one only you can fill. That's your mindset minute if you've got to run. For everybody staying, hang on, because I want to show you what an empty tank looks like from the inside, then zoom out to what it's doing to the whole industry on the whole. Plus, I want to talk about your clippers, of all things. Let me talk about the tool in your hand. Stay with me. This does go somewhere. Your clippers run on a motor, and that motor has a limit. You run it too hard for too long without oil or a cool down, it's not going to last. Only sometimes does it start cutting worse the week before it actually dies, but usually there's no sputter, there's no smell, no light. It sounds completely normal right up until the moment that it doesn't. Then it's just gone. Mid-fade, client's in the chair, and you're standing there flipping the switch like that's going to bring it back. But how did you not see that coming? You didn't see it because there was nothing to see. It ran perfectly the whole way down. That's the same as burnout. It's not a slow fade that you hear coming. There's no warning light. It's just like normal, gone. You oil those clippers every single day. You brush them out. You let them cool and you rotate a backup pair in the second one starts running hot. Because you know exactly what happens to a tool you run into the ground, and you refuse to let it happen to a $200 machine. You give your clippers a maintenance schedule you've never once given yourself. Let's define the thing, because the word burnout gets thrown around so loosely now that it's basically wallpaper. People say it when they mean that they've had a long week. That's not this. It's finishing a cut you're proud of, the kind that 2 years ago would have had you sneaking looks at it all afternoon and feeling nothing when the client lights up about their hair. It's snapping at a coworker over a broom in July that when it didn't bother you in January. It's seeing your favorite regular's name on the book and feeling your stomach drop, not because of him, but because of you know he deserves the full version of you. And the full version of you didn't show up today, and you're not sure where you left it. Look, it even has a shape. Burnout isn't just one feeling. First, the exhaustion everybody knows, the bone tired that sleep doesn't even touch, where a Sunday off leaves you just as empty on Monday. Then the cynicism, the sneaking feeling where you catch yourself getting sarcastic about the job in your own head, and clients stop being people you serve and start being appointments you survive. Then the one that scares me the most, detachment, where you look at your own work and it feels like it belongs to somebody else. Exhaustion says, I can't. Cynicism says, why bother? And detachment says, who even cares? One of the three, you're tired, and rest can handle tired. But all three of them, you're not tired anymore, you're burning out, which is the whole reason this distinction matters. Rest fills the tank, but rest doesn't fix the leak. Now imagine it stretched over a year. January, full tank, full book, and the book feels like proof that you're winning. By April, you're running on habit, and the work's still good because your hands know it even when your head has checked out. By July, you're snapping at the mere thought of picking up the broom. By October, the favorite regular's name on the book makes your stomach drop, and every single month of that, the book looked exactly the same. Fantastic. The gauge everybody watches never moved because it wasn't keeping an eye on the thing that was really failing. And nobody chooses it. Nobody wakes up and decides to burn out. It comes in through a side door, like one decision at a time. You take the 7 o'clock because he's a good client and it's one night. You skip lunch because the walk-in's right there. And then you answer the reschedule text at 10:30 p.m. because it takes only a second. You give up the Sunday because the wedding party could only do Sunday. Every one of those is defensible. But if you string 50 of them together, you've built a schedule no human being was meant to run, one reasonable yes at a time. That's why you could never find the moment it went wrong. There is no moment. There's just a slope. Every step down it making sense while you look at it. None of it shows up on your book. All of it shows up in you. So why is it so hard to catch this in the mirror? Everybody around you is grading you on the book. Your clients see a barber who's booked and good. Your shop sees numbers that are up. Your family sees somebody who's providing. Every scoreboard in your life is lit up green. So even when part of you knows something is off, there's a whole world of evidence lined up to tell you you're imagining it. So the trap tightens, the better it all looks. The fuller the book, the louder the case is that you're fine, and the harder it gets to trust the one gauge that's actually telling you the truth. And I know some of you are watching this at 1.5 speed. You're on your feet eating lunch over the trash can between a fade and a beard trim, thinking this is a nice one for other people. My man, you are this demographic. Now let me put some numbers on it because I don't want you taking my word alone. Gallup put this question to nearly 7,500 full-time workers, and 23% said they feel burned out at work very often or even always, with another 44% feeling it sometimes. That's the whole American workforce, every industry. And I'd put money on a trade built on 10-hour Saturdays and no sick days sitting on the wrong side of that average. Do the math. Roughly 2 of every 3 working people have felt this exact same thing. 2 out of 3. So if it's you, rewrite the story you've been telling yourself, because you're not the weak link in a strong industry. You're most of us. And a room full of people who each think they're the only one is exactly how a problem like this survives and compounds. Burnout runs on silence. Everybody in the shop feels it, and nobody says it out loud. And saying it out loud turns out to be half the fix. Now watch a personal problem become an industry one. The federal government's own outlook has this trade growing 5% through 2034, with about 84,000 openings a year to fill. But read where the Bureau of Labor Statistics says those openings come from, because most of them aren't new chairs. They're replacement needs. The government's own word for refilling a seat after somebody transfers out of the trade or stops working altogether. People aren't failing to enter this trade. They're leaving it. Now, if you put those two numbers side by side, here's what you get. An industry with more seats than people, where the people already in the seats are the ones burning out and leaving. That's one problem wearing two faces. Or to put it in terms of the tool in your hand, the whole industry is a clipper run completely out with no oil and no cool down, and everyone's standing around confused about why the motors keep dying. Now the working part, and I want you to actually do this. Pull up your last 4 weeks. Not your book, your actual calendar. The one with your whole life in it. Count the full days you took completely off, and I mean the full days. Not a slow day, not a day you only answered a couple texts from the couch, because if you answered texts, you were at work. You were just at work in sweatpants. Full days. 0 clients. Off. Count them right now and drop that number in the comments. That's the number I care about today, more than your revenue, more than your rebook rate. If the number's 0, hear me clearly, no shame in that. Plenty of very good barbers have 0 on the board right now. So let me tell you what 0 actually means. 0 means you've run the motor flat out, just completely redlined for a month with nothing to cool it down, and a tool run like that doesn't fail gradually or politely or at a convenient time. It's going to quit mid-fade with a client in the chair on the busiest Saturday of the year. So the fix, it's not a vacation and it's not a mantra. It's not something you repeat in the mirror. It's redundancy. You schedule the cool down before you need it, the exact same way you oil a pair of clippers before they seize instead of after. Maintenance before the failure, not standing in the wreckage after it. A real day on the calendar, protected exactly like a fully booked Saturday, because that day off is load bearing. It does the same job your busiest Saturday does. It keeps the thing, you, that makes the money able to keep making it. And you have to make it mechanical so it survives contact with your book. Open your booking system tonight and block the day the way a client would take it. Full day, marked busy, no gaps for a booking to sneak in, because a day off that only lives in your head is the first thing you sell the second somebody asks nicely. And you have never once given away a booked client slot because somebody asked nicely. So give your own personal time, your own slot, the same protection you'd give a stranger with a fresh appointment. You're already great at protecting time. You've just only ever done it for other people. One more before I hit the craft corner, because I can hear the objection already. And let me have it. I want to hear it. Dave, I can't afford a day off. I'm going to say this with love today. You'd never say that about your clippers. You rest them, you rotate them, you let them cool, because you know a motor run completely redlined, flat out, with no downtime seizes mid-fade and takes a whole Saturday down with it. You already gave a $200 machine the deal that you won't give yourself. Craft corner, because a mindset with no technique bolted onto it is just a nice thought that I had in the shower once while I was thinking about this show. You won't fix a motor that you've run hot all year with a vacation twice a year. 2 weeks in July doesn't undo 50 weeks of redline. You need small things built into the actual workday that start this week. I've got them for you here today, all free, combined cost $0, cheapest equipment segment in this show's history. First is the 90-second reset. Client walks out the door, and before you sweep, before you check your phone, before the next name gets called, 90 seconds. Hands off the clippers, relax your shoulders, 4 slow breaths. It sounds too small to matter, so let me tell you what it's for. It's not for recovering from your day. Nothing recovers a day in 90 seconds, but it's for the stacking. Every client leaves a little emotional residue all day long. The guy who trauma dumped for 40 minutes, the kid who wouldn't sit still, the no-show that wrecked your rhythm. Carry each one into the next appointment, and by 3 o'clock, you're cutting hair on fumes, wearing every client since 9 o'clock. The reset is you wiping down the chair between clients, except the chair this time is you. The next one is physical. Rotate your stance on purpose. Same weight on the same hip, same shoulder pinned at the same angle, 8 hours a day is its own version of running the motor hot. And your body fails the same way a clipper does. It feels fine. Then one morning, you wake up at 35 with a back that feels like it needs to file a formal complaint every time you bend for a dropped comb. 2 minutes an hour. Shift your base, roll the wrists, drop the shoulders, stretch. Boring, tiny, and it compounds in your favor at the exact rate skipping it compounds against you. And don't tell yourself the physical tank and the mental tank are separate tanks. They drain into each other all day. A body aching by 2 o'clock is feeding the same emptiness we've talked about all morning today. Lastly, the one that changes your client relationships, not just your body. Say the boundary out loud instead of enforcing it without a word and resenting people for not reading your mind. Once in a while, with the right client, say this: give me 5 minutes before we can start so that I can actually be present for you today. That's not unprofessional. That's a professional telling the truth about what his best work costs. And here's what I've come to believe. Clients don't lose respect when you say this. They lose it when the version of you in the mirror behind them is visibly running on nothing and pretending not to be. They can tell. They can always tell. You know how you feel when a client's checked out of the conversation? It works both directions. Now, here's a caution on this one, because I don't want you to take this where I didn't send you. That boundary line is for once in a while, with clients who've earned real honesty from you. It's not a script for complaining. There's a version where every barber narrates his exhaustion to every client all day long, and that's not a boundary. That's a leak, and those clients start absorbing your tiredness as part of the service. So save it, use it rarely, say it plainly, then actually take your 5 minutes, because it only works if the promise is true, and the promise is, I do whatever it takes to bring you my best work. And notice what all three of those have in common. Not one of them is a grand gesture. Not one costs money, or needs permission, or waits on a slow season that might never come. They're small, they're boring, they're repeatable, and they work on the tank while you're still standing behind the chair, which is the only place the tank actually drains. You don't fix a burned out motor with a vacation you take in July. You fix it in the 90 seconds between clients, one rep at a time. Same way the damage got done in the first place. All right, we've got nothing in the mailbag this week, so we're going to roll straight through. Mail it beforethechop.com. Every comment, we'll have you on the show. Let's get into the barber news. 3 real stories orbiting this exact topic, and they turn into one story by the end. First, the most reassuring, boring number you'll hear all week. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, in its Occupational Outlook Handbook, projects this trade, barbers, hairstylists, cosmetologists, growing 5% from 2024 through 2034, faster than the average across all occupations, with about 84,000 openings a year. Sit with who's telling you this. The federal government. They have no agenda in our career, nothing to sell you, and they're saying this trade needs more people than it has. So if you're in year 1 or year 2, lying awake wondering if you bet on a shrinking industry, I'm here to tell you, you didn't. The demand side isn't the problem. And that number's also for the skeptical uncle of every apprentice watching today. Next time somebody says barbering isn't a real career, you've got the government's own arithmetic to slide across the table. 84,000 openings a year isn't a hobby. File that, because it makes the next story hit different. Second, the fine print under that first number, because the openings figure has a story inside of it. Those 84,000 openings a year, the Bureau of Labor Statistics says most of them are replacement needs, not growth, not new chairs, just refilling seats after people transfer out of the trade or leave working altogether. Run the shop owner math on that one. Demand's climbing. The government just said so. And the same report says the biggest source of open chairs is people walking away from the ones they had. It's not that nobody wants in. It's that the people who got in are walking back out. So every barber who burns out and leaves doesn't just cost that barber a career. It costs some shop somewhere a chair that it can't restaff in an industry already refilling tens of thousands of seats a year. Burnout doesn't stay personal. It invoices the whole shop on its way out the door. And if you're a solo booth renter hearing that and thinking it's an owner's problem, not yours, think again, because you are the owner here. You're the whole shop. The chair that can't be restaffed is your chair. Nobody is building you a culture or protecting your autonomy or scheduling your cool down. That's the freedom and the trap of renting a booth in the same breath. The only person who can engineer this for you is you. Third, and this one matters for what it rules out. There's a peer-reviewed review on emotional labor in hair and beauty work, and it keeps landing on the same conclusion. The real predictors of who burns out and leaves are workplace culture, autonomy, and whether people feel supported. Not toughness, not who was built for the industry, conditions, not character. And if you own a shop, or if you plan to, that's the best news in this whole episode today, because you can't fix somebody else's character. But culture and autonomy and support are things a shop can build on purpose. They can build them on a whiteboard. They can build them starting today. Burnout at the shop level is a fixable engineering problem, and almost everybody's treating it like a personality flaw. Put the three together because I promise that they were one story. The industry has room to grow. The government says so. And the thing standing between this trade and that growth isn't demand. It's whether the people already behind the chairs can sustain staying there. And the research says sustaining them is possible. So the real headline this week isn't just a talent shortage. It's a run it till it dies problem at the scale of an entire industry. And every one of us is either part of the cool down or part of the heat. There's a post I keep coming back to this week, and it's not a haircut. A shop published its rule book on Instagram this week, and I thought it was interesting. It's not a promo. It's not a before and after. It's not a fate of the week. It's like the actual list of house rules that they run their shop by, that they run on the floor, and they put it out in the open for anyone to read. There's 8 of them, and the first card sets the terms before you ever get to rule 1. So here it says, 8 rules in our barbershop. The culture's written down. It's not left to leak. This is Theo Rawady. He posted on Instagram on the 10th of this month, and I'll be straight about what I'm not sure of here. The post doesn't say whether Theo owns the place, whether he runs it, or just cuts in it. So I'm not going to hand the man a title that he didn't claim, but what I can read is the list, and it's worth your 2 minutes. The title card calls them non-negotiable rules that set the standard of behavior in our space. Then 8 cards. Be on time. Greet everyone. Keep standards under pressure. Clean everything. See it and sort it. No negative self-talk or gossip. Back your team, and no swearing. Read that back and notice what isn't on it. Not one of those 8 is about hair. Nobody wrote down, blend your fades, or check your lineup. Every rule is about how you carry yourself in the room. And that's the whole play, because the stuff that actually decides whether a shop is a place people want to spend their day almost never gets written down. It lives in the owner's head and it leaks out sideways, and a new hire spends 6 months guessing at it. What they did here is drag that invisible standard onto a card a first-day apprentice can read, so they actually know what good looks like before they've swept a single clipping of hair off the floor. Now, do I buy all 8? Most of them, yes. A couple are load-bearing, and a couple read a little like poster talk. No swearing in a barbershop is a rule that I would want to watch get enforced before I actually believe it, because a rule your own floor breaks by Tuesday isn't a standard, it's just wall art. But that 4th card I would hang over my own station, actually. It says speed is earned, do the reps slow, build speed over time. That one rhymes with everything I've been saying today. The barber who lasts isn't the one who found the shortcut. He's the one that did the boring rep clean, again and again and again, until clean got quick. Here's where it really lands against today, though. Back in the news block, I told you the research keeps arriving at the same conclusion. Who burns out and who walks isn't decided by how tough you are. It's decided by culture, autonomy, by whether people feel backed. And I told you that was buildable. On a whiteboard, starting today. Now look at this list. Back your team. No negative self-talk or gossip. That is the whiteboard. That's this shop deciding out loud that how you treat each other is a rule and not just a mood, which is the exact thing the studies say keeps good barbers in the chair instead of walking out of the trade for good. So this was never really a post about 8 rules. It's a post about writing your culture down before it writes itself. You don't need 8 of them. You need a designer. And you don't need to put it on Instagram for anybody. You need one line you would actually enforce on the wall by the end of the week. So what's the one that goes up in your shop? Today's hot take comes with a permission slip. If you're rested, if your weeks are sustainable, if you took a real day off in recent memory, this one's not aimed at you. Just go ahead and coast to the finish today. But if you're white knuckling a schedule you already know isn't sustainable, I need 2 minutes from you. Somewhere along the way, this industry decided never taking a day off is a flex. You've seen the posts on Instagram, no days off, booked through the holidays. While you were sleeping, I was cutting. There are barbers answering client texts from a hospital waiting room and posting it like it's a championship ring. And I get where it comes from. For a lot of us, the full book was the dream, and turning down work feels like spitting on it. But follow that logic all the way off the cliff with me. If 0 days off is impressive, then working through the flu is more impressive. Cutting on a thrown out back, more impressive still. And the logical end of that competition is a barber doing a skin fade from inside of his own casket while the eulogy plays. Everybody agrees it's absurd at the bottom of the slope. All I'm asking is that you notice how far down you already are. So the actual take, that's not dedication. That's a system with no redundancy. And systems with no redundancy don't fail gracefully. They fail all at once, at the worst possible time, and they take other things down with them. Your income, your shop's schedule, your family's plans, the clients who count on you. All of it riding on one motor you won't let cool down. And the market won't save you because the market can't see it. Your clients will keep booking a burned out barber right up to the day that you break, and they won't know they were doing it because from the outside, you sound completely normal. Where have you heard that before? I also want to name who this take is really for, because it's not just the grinders chasing a flex. Some of you aren't flexing. You're scared. You're scared the clients leave if you're not endlessly available. You're scared that the book you spent years building evaporates the first Tuesday you protect. Let me tell you what happens when a good barber sets a real schedule, because I've watched it more than once. The clients who value you adjust their week to yours. They already do it for their dentist, their mechanic, every restaurant they love. The only clients you lose to a day off are the ones who are only ever loyal to your availability. And you are never keeping those anyway, not at a price that you can live on. And the fear never mentions this part. The barber who protects a day doesn't come back worse. He comes back sharper, more patient, actually glad to see the 10 o'clock appointment. Your clients can feel that, the same way they can feel the empty version. The rested you is a better product than the endlessly available you. And the market you're so scared of rewards it anyway, because people can always tell the difference between a barber who's present and one who's just physically in the room. So it comes down to a binary. And I've looked hard for the third option, and there just simply isn't one. Either you build a real day off into your week on purpose before you need it, or your body and your business build one for you on their schedule without asking, and their version costs a lot more than yours. 2 doors. Pick the cheap one. Last thing before we land the plane today. I want to see something in the comments, and I want the real answer, not the edited one. The last thing you canceled on yourself to fit a client in. The workout, the dinner, the kids' game, the sleep. Put it in the comments. Not so I can judge you, but because I bet most of you have never said it out loud, and this is a decent place to start. This morning, I showed you a pair of clippers that run perfect, right up until the morning they don't, and a barber who looks exactly the same from the outside. I hope by now it's landed that the clippers were never really the story. The story is the second gauge, the one with no number on it, and whether you've looked at yours lately. Full book, empty tank. The book was never the problem. It was never even the gauge that mattered the most. And I want to be straight with you today about why this one matters more than most of what we cover. You can recover from a bad pricing decision. You can rebuild a slow month. Those are money problems, and money problems have money answers. But the tank isn't a money problem. Push it to empty long enough, and what you lose isn't a week of income. It's the part of you that liked this job in the first place, and the part that does not always come back just because business picked back up. So the stake here was never your revenue. It's the thing underneath your revenue that makes all of it worth doing. So this week, check the second gauge, then do one thing about what you find. On one real day, on the calendar, protected like a Saturday, booked into the system tonight before the week gets a vote. And if a name came to mind while you watch this, some barber you know who hasn't taken a real day off in longer than they'd care to admit, send them this episode. Not to call them out, but because you'd rather they hear it from you than from the actual failure. Mailbox is always open. Mail it beforethechop.com. We're live here every Monday, 11:30 Mountain, 1:30 Eastern, and the main segment and the Mindset Minute drop as their own videos right here if you want either on its own. Hit subscribe so it's waiting for you. Next week, we're going to open the trust ledger. Every client in your chair is keeping a running account on you. 4 different kinds of trusts, deposits, and withdrawals on every single visit, and most barbers never look at the balance. It gets stacked slow over years and lost in one decision. So if today was about protecting the barber, next week is about protecting the book. And down the road, we're coming back to today's thread because around year 5, burnout stops being occasional and starts having a name. That one's going to get its own episode. Thank you for watching. I'm David Ford. This is Before the Chop. Get behind the chair, chop some hair, and go crush it.